In 1965, Singapore was a struggling island with no natural resources, no clean water of its own, and no army to defend itself. Worse yet, it had just been expelled from its union with Malaysia, left to survive on its own. Back then, no one expected Singapore to succeed. The odds were stacked against it. But today, this tiny nation is one of the richest countries in the world. It has a higher income per person than the United States, one of the world's busiest ports, and an airport ranked best on the planet. How did this happen? How did a small, swampy island with a colonial past become a global economic powerhouse? This is the story of how Singapore got so rich, and what the rest of the world can learn from it. When Singapore was forced to separate from Malaysia in 1965, it wasn't a moment of triumph, it was a moment of fear. The country didn't choose independence, it was pushed into it, unprepared and uncertain. Challenges were overwhelming. Singapore was a tiny island with a deeply divided population, made up of Chinese, Malay, and Indian communities. Racial tensions ran high, and violent riots had already scarred the streets. Unity seemed like a distant dream. The economy was in shambles. Unemployment was soaring. There were no natural resources, no industry, and barely any land to build on. Singapore even had to import drinking water from Malaysia. To make matters worse, the British, who had long maintained a military presence and provided economic support, announced they would withdraw their forces. What little stability Singapore had left was about to disappear. And geopolitically, things weren't any easier. The country was surrounded by much larger neighbors, Indonesia and Malaysia, both of which viewed its sudden independence with suspicion. Singapore's future looked fragile. Many believed the country wouldn't last a decade. But instead of collapsing, Singapore would rise, and it all began with a bold vision and unshakable leadership. At the heart of Singapore's transformation was one man, Lee Kuan Yew. He wasn't just a prime minister, he was a strategist, a builder, and a visionary who reshaped the destiny of the nation. From the very beginning, Lee made one thing clear: there would be zero tolerance for corruption. He believed that a clean, honest government was the foundation of long-term prosperity. Under his leadership, Singapore established strict rule of law, where even the powerful were held accountable. He built a government based on merit, not connections. Only the most capable were allowed to lead, creating a world-class civil service that became one of the most efficient in the world. Talent was not just welcomed, it was nurtured. Lee also knew that Singapore could not survive in isolation. With no natural resources to rely on, he opened the doors to foreign investment. He personally courted multinational corporations like IBM, Shell, and Hewlett-Packard, offering them a stable, business-friendly environment to set up operations. The focus was clear: export-oriented industrialization. Instead of trying to produce everything for themselves, Singapore positioned itself as a global manufacturing and logistics hub, making high-quality goods for international markets. It wasn't just about policy, it was about precision. Singapore became known for its efficiency, safety, and pro-business mindset. Investors trusted it. Businesses flocked to it. The world started to pay attention. This wasn't a miracle. It was a masterclass in long-term planning and disciplined execution. As Singapore's manufacturing base grew, the country didn't stop there. It evolved and set its sights on becoming a global financial and trade powerhouse. One of the first bold moves, turning its natural geography into a strategic advantage. Sitting between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, Singapore positioned itself as a key gateway between East and West. It built what would become the world's busiest transshipment port, handling millions of containers every year and connecting hundreds of shipping routes across the globe. But trade was just the beginning. Singapore soon developed one of the most advanced financial sectors in Asia. With rock-solid banking regulations, political stability, and strong rule of law, the country attracted banks, asset managers, and investors from around the world. It became a safe haven for capital, a place where money wasn't just stored, but grown, and the incentives were hard to ignore. Singapore offered low corporate taxes, an English-speaking workforce, and some of the strongest intellectual property protections in the region. This wasn't just a city that welcomed business, it understood what business needed to thrive. By combining global access with internal efficiency, Singapore didn't just join the world economy. It became one of its engines. Singapore's success wasn't just built on trade deals and financial flows, it was built on its people. One of the country's most astonishing achievements is its public housing program. Over 80% of Singaporeans own their homes, thanks to government-subsidized flats developed by the Housing and Development Board. This wasn't just about shelter, It was about pride, stability, and a sense of belonging. But the real investment began in the classroom. Singapore poured resources into education, with a sharp focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. English was made the language of instruction, but bilingualism was emphasized. Every child also learned their mother tongue, preserving cultural identity while staying globally competitive. Social cohesion was a priority. In a country made up of multiple ethnicities, Lee Kuan Yew's government worked tirelessly to build a shared national identity. Interracial harmony was supported by policies that ensured different ethnic groups lived side by side in every neighborhood. National service was introduced to instill discipline and a sense of duty. Every male citizen had to serve, not just to defend the country, but to bind the people together with a common experience. With excellent healthcare, a strong sense of public safety, and one of the lowest corruption rates in the world, Singapore didn't just create economic growth, it created a high quality of life. And this human-centered strategy became one of its most powerful competitive advantages. Today, Singapore is a symbol of modern prosperity. With one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world, it stands shoulder to shoulder with the richest nations, not because of its size, but because of its vision. It's no longer just a financial hub or trade port. Singapore is now a leader in innovation, pioneering smart city solutions, autonomous vehicles, and advanced data infrastructure. From AI-driven public services to widespread cashless payments, it's building one of the most digitally integrated societies on the planet. In biotechnology and tech, Singapore has positioned itself as a regional powerhouse, attracting R&D centers and startups alike with its cutting-edge labs, skilled workforce, and strong IP protections. And on the global stage, it plays a strategic role not just economically, but diplomatically. Known for its neutrality, agility, and clear-headed policymaking, world leaders seek its insights. Businesses trust its systems. When it comes to urban design, it's reimagining what a city can be, one of the greenest and most efficient urban centers in the world. Think vertical gardens, climate-resilient infrastructure, and Marina Bay's futuristic skyline. From survival to strategy, and from strategy to global leadership, Singapore's journey is a masterclass in what's possible when innovation meets discipline. Singapore's story isn't just about rising from poverty, it's about what a nation can achieve with vision, discipline, and a deep investment in its people. From a struggling island to a global financial and innovation hub, Singapore shows that smart choices can reshape destiny, and as it leads in sustainability, biotech, and digital innovation, the next chapter might just see Singapore emerge as the world's next tech giant.